So, students, last time we had done the chapter The Tiger King, and I had stopped at a very crucial moment because that point I have to discuss a very important, uh, a very important point of this lesson, which is the arrival of a British officer. So, what happens that a British officer arrives in this kingdom? As you know, the British were ruling the country, and the Indian rulers were just puppet kings. This I have repeated many times. So, at another time, he was in danger of losing his throne. A high ranking British officer visited Pratibandhapuram. And this British officer, he was fond of hunting tigers. He wanted to hunt tigers and fonder of being photographed with the tigers he had shot. So, what did he want? He wanted his pic to be clicked along with the hunted tiger. As usual, he wished to hunt tigers in Pratibandhapuram, but the Maharaj, now the Maharaja, because he has to himself kill 99 tigers, 100 tigers, so he refuses the permission. And what options does he give? He says, you can do any other hunt. You want to go for a hunting expedition, go for any other hunt. You can have a boar hunt or a mosquito hunt or a mouse hunt, whatever you want to hunt. But one thing I won't allow is the tiger hunt. The tiger hunt is impossible, he says. Now, this was a kind of clash, a kind of conflict between the two. Now, the British officer had a secretary. Now, this secretary, he sent a word to the Maharaj through the Diwan. Now, the British officer has a secretary and the Maharaja has a Diwan. It's like a minister who helps him. That the Durai himself did not have to kill the tiger. So, now the British officer secretary, he comes up with a, you can say, he suggests a middle path. That what the Maharaj will do, the Maharaj will do the actual killing. Means the Maharaj will shoot the tiger, right? And the British officer, he will get himself photographed with the dead tiger, holding the gun and standing over the tiger's carcass. Carcass means the dead body. So he says that would be enough. Right, fine, because the killing of the tiger would go in the account of the Maharaja because he has shot at the tiger, so it would add to his tally. And the British officer's priority is to get himself photographed with the dead tiger, that he can get done. But the Maharaja is so adamant, he is so stubborn, he refuses to even give this concession. So Maharaja would not agree even to this proposal. Why did he not allow this thing? If he relented now, what would he do if other British officers turned up for the tiger hunts? So you can get a question, why didn't the Maharaj allow the British officer to just get clicked his photograph along with the dead tiger? Then you can simply write, because he had this fear, he had this apprehension, the anxiety, the Maharaj, that if he allows the British officer to hunt the tiger, then somebody other get himself photographed with the tiger. Next time some other British officer might come and he will say, no, I don't want to get photographed, I want to kill the tiger and get photographed also. So that would be a difficult situation for him. Because he prevented the British officer from fulfilling his desire, the Maharaja stood in danger of losing his kingdom itself. Now, see the power of the Maharaj. When the lesson began, we had a large number of grand titles for the Maharaj. Half a dozen titles we had for the Maharaj. We showed him as if he is the Lord of the universe. But what do we find? Here we have a Maharaj, here we have a king who is in danger of losing his throne. Why? Because he has angered a British officer. The Maharaja and the Diwan, now it's a tough, hard time for the Maharaj. Why? He is about to lose his throne. Now the Maharaj calls his Diwan and they discuss over this issue. And so this is the suggestion from the Diwan. He says that you get some jewels from a famous British company of jewelers in Calcutta. Get some expensive diamond rings of different designs from the jewelers, and 50 rings arrived. So they ordered for 50 diamond rings from a British company of jewelers in Calcutta, and the rings arrived. And then what did they do? They sent all these rings to the British officer's wife. You're getting it? It's like a bribe to appease the British officer's wife so that she can become happy and she can favor them with her husband. The king and the minister expected the Duraisini to choose 1 or 2 rings and send the rest back within no time at all. The Duraisini sent her reply, thank you very much for your gifts. Now, 50 diamond rings, expensive ones, sent to the British officer's wife. What does she do? She simply keeps all the gifts and she doesn't choose a single one. What was their intent? What did they expect? She would choose a one or two rings and send the rest of them back, but she didn't. She kept all of them and she sent a thank you note. In 2 days, a bill for 3 lakh rupees came from the British jewelers. That time, 3 lakh rupees, astronomical amount. The Maharaja was happy that though he had lost 3 lakh of rupees, he had managed to retain his kingdom. So ultimately, the kingdom was saved. The Maharaja did not lose his kingdom. The British officer's wife became happy, and she would have put in a good word for the Maharaj to her husband, and the husband did not pursue the case. So the Maharaja retained, means he kept his throne. His throne did not come into danger. His throne wasn't taken away from him. But what did he lose? He lost 3 lakh rupees. But do you think the Maharaja had any compunction? He had any prick of conscience? No, I don't think so. He was so taken up with his passion of killing tigers. He had to achieve that goal. So that's a very important point. You can get a long question on that. Regarding this British officer, what had he done? Why was the Maharaja's throne in danger? Or how did the Maharaja succeed in saving his throne? Now we come to part 4. What happened? The Maharaja's tiger hunts continued, and within 10 years he was able to kill 70 tigers. So the hunt is going on. One major hitch came, that due to the British officer, then he got it solved by paying 3 lakh rupees, and in 10 years he was able to kill 70 tigers. And now then another problem comes in the tiger hunt. Then because he's killing tigers continuously, and it's just not a very huge state, I guess. So the number of tigers, what happens? It starts dwindling. It starts falling. Now this is a matter of concern. So whenever the king is in problem, you'll find he calls his diwan, because the character of the diwan is very important. The diwan is a resourceful man. You might, if you get a short question about the diwan or even a long question, then you have to mention this point, that he was a very resourceful person. Means he had solution to any problem the king faced. Like with the British officer, and now here Maharaja sent for the Diwan. Diwan Sahib, aren't you aware of the fact that 30 tigers still remain to be shot down by this gun of mine? He says, look, 30 tigers remain. I have to meet the number of 100. And now here we have this conversation between the Diwan and the Maharaja, which is full of humor, which adds to the humorous effect, the comic effect of the story. There is satire also in the story, as I told you. There is humor also. What is the humor here? Because the Diwan misunderstands, and he thinks that this man, the Maharaja, is going to kill me. He says, I am not a tiger and I am not a gun. You are neither tiger nor a gun. I have decided to get married. So he clears up his purpose. He says, the reason why I have called you here is that I want to get married. Again the Diwan gets confused, and he says, Your Majesty, I have 2 wives already. If I marry you, don't talk nonsense. Why should I marry you? So again a confusion. Diwan thinks that the king wants to marry him, and he expresses his inability. He says, I have got 2 wives already. So if I marry you, then it is going to be a big scandal. Don't talk nonsense. Why should I marry you? I want a tiger. What I want is a tiger. So he says, I want a tiger. And now the Diwan misunderstands that the king wants to marry a tiger. So he says, please think it over. Your ancestors were married to the sword. If you marry the gun, a tiger king is more than enough for this state. It doesn't need a tiger queen as well. So Diwan says, no, please don't do that. It's totally unthinkable, unimaginable. You marrying a tiger and the tiger becoming a queen. So we already have a tiger king. So there is satire in that. He says, a tiger king is more than enough for this state. With the state, what is happening? The state is in a state of neglect. The king is not paying attention to any other work, except killing tigers. So he says the tiger king is more than enough for the state. What will happen if we have a tiger queen? Means the matters are going to worsen. And the Maharaja laughed, and he says, I am not thinking of marrying a girl, but I'm not thinking of marrying a tiger. I want to marry a girl. So he orders him, you draw up a statistics of the neighboring states. Statistics means like a census of the neighboring states, and you find out which state has the largest number of tigers. And along with it, does it have a princess of any suitable age whom I can think of marrying? So he says, if there is a girl I can marry in the royal family of a state with a large tiger population. So now look, everything in the king's mind, it is directed towards his goal. He wants to marry not just for the not for the sake of marrying, not for the sake of having a companion in his life, a wife. What he wants is so that he can further his opportunity prospects of hunting tigers. So the Diwan found the right girl from a state which had a large number of tigers, and he got married. The king gets married, and then, as his intention was, he goes to his wife's kingdom, father-in-law, and he goes and hunts tigers. Every time he goes, he hunts 5 or 6 tigers. Now, we come to the fifth part. The Maharaja's anxiety reached a fever pitch when there remained just one tiger to achieve his tally of 100. Now, Maharaja is playing at 99. So, obviously, 99 is it's a point, it's a score when people get nervous and jittery, nervous. So, he's nervous, anxious. And why? Because the tigers in his state, he has killed all the tigers. In his father-in-law's state also, he has killed all the tigers. He couldn't find the last 99 tigers. He couldn't find the 100th one. So now the Maharaja is feeling very sad also. He was sunk in gloom. Gloom means despair, sadness. And then he got a good news. Some villagers came and told him, look, there is a tiger in our state. In our village it seems there is a tiger. And then how did they come to know there is a tiger? Because the sheep were disappearing. So they guessed it was a tiger. Now this news comes as a huge surprise. It makes the king very happy. And what does he do out of happiness? The Maharaja announced a 3-year exemption from all taxes for that village, and set out on the hunt at once. Look, the king had a very arbitrary nature. Arbitrary, when there is not governed by any law or any principle, whatever he feels, he does that. Like here, he feels okay, he's happy that he has got the news of the tiger, so he says, okay, 3-year exemption from all taxes for that village which has that tiger, and he leaves for the hunt. He reaches there and he sets camp over there and he's looking for that tiger. But the tiger has simply disappeared and it does not turn up. And now, because he had come with great expectations and now he finds that nothing is happening, so that obviously the king is very furious. And out of his fury and anger, many officers lost their jobs. And then he gives an order. He says, okay, let the land tax be doubled. When the tiger he isn't getting the tiger, he says, let the land tax be doubled. So, he orders the land tax to be doubled. And again we have the Diwan playing a role of a very good advisor. He tells the king, look, if you do this, the people will become discontented. Discontented is like they will become dissatisfied, they will become angry, and our state too will fall a prey to the Indian National Congress. You know, the Indian National Congress, they had launched the freedom struggle was going on. So he said, if you do this, then our state is in danger. And he says, so now the king is not ready to listen to anything. He says, okay, if you are favoring this, if you are with the people in this thing, then you may resign from the post. So king is not going to hear anything from anyone. In that case, you may resign from your post. The Diwan went home convinced that if the Maharaja did not find the tiger soon, the results could be catastrophic, disastrous results. King is mad, in fury, in anger, he can do anything. So what did he do? Because Diwan is very resourceful, he managed a tiger from the People's Park in Madras and kept hidden in his house. Next day, so what does the Diwan do? Again, he plays a very important role here. When the king is very angry, he manages the tiger, he gets it from the zoo, and he keeps the tiger hidden in his house. Next day, he carries the tiger to the place where the king is. Now, this tiger, you will see, the tiger which has been arranged by the Diwan, what kind of a tiger it was? It wasn't a very real kind of a tiger. It was a tiger which was probably very old, because it's written, the Diwan and his aged wife dragged the tiger to the car and shoved it into the seat. Now imagine a tiger which can be dragged. By whom? Not by a very young people, but by 2 old people, the Diwan and his wife. Both of them must be, it's written, aged. Then a bit of humor also. When they reach that spot where the king has set up his camp, they try to push the tiger out, and the tiger doesn't come out of the car. And then he was very tired. Next day, the tiger just wandered into the king's presence himself. It by itself, it came with its own will. The tiger comes into the presence of the Maharaj, and the Maharaja has got his His wish is fulfilled. He sees the tiger in front of him. So what does he do? He picks up a gun, aims at it, and fires at the tiger, shoots at it. And the tiger collapses. And the king says, okay, I have killed the 100th tiger. Now I have killed 100 tigers. That was the thing. He was pursuing the aim of 100 tigers. I have fulfilled it. I have achieved the goal. My vow has been fulfilled. And he was extremely happy. And he says, now this tiger, the 100th tiger, is a very special one. So what you have to do, he gives an order to his the retinue which was after him. He says, ordering the tiger to be brought to the capital in grand procession, the Maharaja hastened away in his car. Now you do the job of rest of the affairs you manage. He tells his people, I am going back to my city. And he says one thing, you have to bring it in to the capital in a grand procession. Means there should be a rally kind of thing. It should be because it is the 100th tiger that I have killed. Now what happens? The king leaves. The king goes away. And the people who were with the team of the Maharaja, and they look at the tiger. One of the hunters looks at the tiger and the tiger looks at him. Understand? The hunter goes towards the tiger, looks at it closely, and then the tiger also opens its eyes and it looks at the hunter. Means what? The tiger it's not killed. It's not dead. It's alive. Why? Because the bullet had missed it. Means it hadn't been hit by the bullet. Now, just imagine the king aimed at the tiger and the bullet did not hit the tiger. Means the king was a poor shot. Means he could not aim correctly. What had happened to the tiger? In fact, it had fainted from the shock of the bullet whizzing past. So the bullet went just past him. Okay, missed him by a few inches, by a hair's breadth, and he just fainted by the shock. So that is the kind of a tiger we have. Earlier I told you, it was a tiger which was dragged by, pulled by whom? By two aged people. It was dragged, and now we have here that he fainted from the sound of the bullet. Now the hunters are thinking, what should we do? Should we inform the Maharaj that the tiger hasn't been killed? But who will inform? Does anybody have the daring? Does anybody have the guts? Does anybody have the courage to inform the king? No, they know. King is a very furious person. How will they tell the king? The tiger isn't dead. Why isn't it dead? Because you fired at it and that bullet did not hit it. So indirectly they are accusing the king. They are telling the king that you can't aim properly. So who would bell the cat? Remember that cat and mouse story? Who will bell the cat? Nobody was ready. So then one of them came up with an idea. He went, because if they try to bell the cat, the king might get angry. He might kill them. He might throw them out of their job. Whatever, sorry. So one of the hunters came from a distance of 1 foot and shot the tiger. This time he killed it without missing the mark. Now, remember this. 100th tiger was killed by whom? Technically it was killed by a hunter, not by the king. The king was under the misconception, the king was under the assumption, under the presumption, I have killed the tiger, but in fact he had missed the shot. Is that clear? So technically the 100th tiger was killed by a hunter because the hunters were scared of telling the tiger king that you haven't shot the tiger. And as commanded by the king, the 100th tiger was carried in a procession and through the town and buried. A tomb was erected over it. Very royal kind of treatment given to the 100th tiger just because it is the 100th tiger that has been killed by the king. In fact, it hasn't been killed by the king. Technically, it was killed by the hunter. Now, we come to know that the Maharaja has a son also. It is his 3rd birthday. Means for 3 years, the Maharaja had not paid any attention to his son. Also, this time he says, this time I'm going to have a grand celebration of my son's birthday. So he went to a gift shop, to a shopping center, and he looked for a gift and he says, what can be more appropriate than a tiger? So he bought a toy tiger which is made of wood. Fine. Now, the shopkeeper was a very clever person. The wooden tiger cost only 2 annas and a quarter, but the shopkeeper knew that if he quoted such a low price to the Maharaj, he would be punished under the rules of emergency. Maharaj will say, how are you selling this at such low price? He could be punished. So what does he say? He says that it cost 300 rupees. What was the real actual price? 2 annas and a quarter. And he says 300 rupees. And the Maharaja says, okay, fine. Let this be a gift from your side to my son, to the prince on his birthday. And he took away the tiger without paying. So with 1 stone, the shopkeeper killed 2 birds. Number one, he escaped from the punishment. from by not quoting the actual price. Secondly, he quoted a very high price, and the king felt very happy, and probably he became into the good books of the king. So the father and son, means the king and the prince, were playing with the little toy tiger, and it had been made by an unskilled carpenter, one who is not very thorough with his skill of carpentry. So its surface was rough. You must have observed the wooden surface which is not polished. The wood, there are tiny needle-like wooden pieces coming out, very very thin, very minute, and if they enter your skin, they cause lot of problem. It's very painful. It's called sliver. Sliver, sliver. It's not silver. Don't confuse it with silver. It is sliver. Sliver. So a sliver pierced the right hand of the Maharaj. One of those slivers, it pierced the right hand of the Maharaj. He pulled it out with his left hand. He said, "Oh, it's such a minor thing." And he continued to play. But what happened? The infection just flared. It spread throughout his right hand, and in 4 days it became a suppurating, infected sore which had pus and all in it. And now 3 surgeons were called from Madras. And what did they decide? Oh, we have to operate the king. So the operation took place. The king was operated because he had this deep suppurating wound which has started festering and decaying. So they performed the operation, and after the operation was performed, the 3 surgeons, they came out, and what did they say? The operation was successful, the Maharaja is dead. Now, a contradictory statement. Operation is successful, the Maharaja is dead. Irony. The operation is successful. If the operation is successful, then the Maharaja should live. But what has happened? The Maharaja has died. In this manner, the 100th tiger took its final revenge upon the Tiger King. So in this way, the tiger, that prophecy, the forecast, the prediction of the astrologer. Remember, when we began the lesson, in the beginning we had the prediction about the Tiger King, how he would die. It comes true at the end, because death comes at the hands of the tiger. And although the tiger is not a real one, but still it is a tiger, it's a toy tiger, and the Maharaja tries to avert his destiny, prevent his luck and fate, because he's fated to die at the hands of a tiger. Does he succeed? No, he doesn't succeed. That brings us to the end of the chapter. That is a detailed summary with reference to the paragraphs and the lines. Now what you have to do is you have to go back and read the lesson again. If you have any problem, you can go back to the lecture, listen to the explanations. In the next lecture, I am going to discuss the questions and answers, and what are the expected questions and answers in this text. So till that time, have a nice day.